I'm Emma Thompson, 28 years old, a graphic designer in Portland, Oregon. I just spent the most incredible week of my life on Cape Cod, my first solo vacation since my devastating breakup 6 months ago. For 7 days, I'd walked empty beaches at sunrise, painted watercolors in quiet cafes, and finally felt like myself again. The old Emma, the one who existed before Ryan shattered my confidence and left me questioning everything about who I was. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. My hands were steady on the steering wheel as I pulled into my apartment complex, a small smile playing on my lips. I couldn't wait to tell Carmen about the little antique shop I discovered in Provincetown, how the owner had stories for every piece, just like I did. My sister would roll her eyes at my enthusiasm, but she'd listen. She always did, even when she pretended not to care about my old junk. I grabbed my suitcase and bounded up the stairs to my third-floor apartment, keys jingling with anticipation. But as I rounded the corner to my hallway, something felt wrong. The warm golden glow that usually spilled from my windows looked different, harsh and empty somehow. My stomach tightened as I fumbled with the lock. The doors swung open, and my world collapsed. My apartment, my sanctuary, my carefully curated collection of vintage treasures was gutted. The 1940s Danish teak dining set I'd saved for 8 months to buy was gone. The mid-century modern coffee table where I'd spent countless mornings with my sketch pad and coffee vanished. My grandmother's antique Persian rug, the one that had taken me 2 years to find the perfect match for, nothing but an outline of dust on the hardwood floor. I dropped my suitcase, the thud echoing in the hollow space. My legs felt like water as I walked through room after room, cataloging to devastation. The vintage bookshelf that had held my design books and ceramic collection, gone. The 1960s credenza that had been my pride and joy disappeared. Even my vintage mirror with the ornate brass frame had been stripped from the wall, leaving behind nail holes like wounds. No, 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 I whispered, my voice cracking. This couldn't be real. I'd left Carmen in charge, given her my spare key, trusted her completely. She'd house that for me before without incident. I called her number with shaking fingers, straight to voicemail. I called again, nothing, then again. Each unanswered ring felt like another betrayal. Where was she? Why wasn't she answering? My mind raced through possibilities, each one worse than the last. Had we been robbed? But why would thieves take only my vintage furniture and leave my electronics, my laptop, my camera equipment? I stumbled to the kitchen, desperately hoping to find some explanation, and there it was. A hastily scrawled note stuck to my refrigerator with a magnet I'd brought back from a flea market in Seattle. M. Had to handle an emergency. Will explain everything. Love you. C. An emergency. What kind of emergency required selling someone's furniture? My hands trembled as I read the note again, searching for answers that weren't there. The casual tone, the exclamation point, the heart she'd drawn next to her initial, it all felt like a slap in the face. I sank onto my remaining couch, the only piece of furniture left in my living room, a basic IKEA piece I'd bought as a temporary solution years ago. Everything else, everything that mattered, everything that made this place home was gone. Each piece had a story, a memory attached to it. The dining table where I had hosted my first dinner party after moving to Portland. The coffee table where Jake and I had spent hours planning my apartment's layout, where he'd first taught me about wood grain and craftsmanship. The credenza where I displayed photos of family trips and art pieces I'd collected from local artists. These weren't just objects to me. They were my history, my identity, my proof that I'd built something beautiful after years of feeling lost. After Ryan left, when I'd felt like I was drowning, that furniture had been my anchor. Finding each piece, researching its history, imagining the families who'd owned it before me. It had given me purpose when I needed it most. Now I sat in an empty shell, surrounded by the ghosts of what used to be. The setting sun cast long shadows through my bare windows, highlighting every empty corner, every missing piece of my life. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake next door. Hey, saw your light on. How is Cape Cod? Want to grab dinner and hear all about it? I stared at the message, unable to form words. How could I explain that the person I'd become on that trip, confident and hopeful, had just been shattered the moment I walked through my door? How could I tell him that my own sister had destroyed the sanctuary we'd built together, piece by piece? I tried calling Carmen again, voicemail. Then I called my mom. Emma, how was your trip, honey? Linda's warm voice usually comforted me, but tonight it just made the betrayal sharper. Mom, is Carmen okay? Is there some family emergency I don't know about?
Emergency? No, sweetheart. Carmen's been posting on Instagram all week, actually. Something about a new look? I don't really understand that social media stuff, but she seems fine. Why? My blood ran cold. Carmen had been posting on social media while my apartment was being emptied? This wasn't about an emergency at all. Nothing, Mom. I'll call you later. I hung up and immediately pulled up Carmen's Instagram. There she was, posting daily selfies throughout the week I'd been gone. Her face looked different somehow, subtly changed in ways I couldn't quite identify. But she was clearly fine, clearly not dealing with any emergency that would justify what she'd done to my home. The last post was from this morning. A photo of her in what looked like a medical office, captioned, "Self-Care Sunday, investing in myself. #new me, #self-love, #blessed." A medical office. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Carmen had sold my furniture to pay for cosmetic procedures. My vintage collection, my sanctuary, my carefully built life had been traded for whatever she'd had done to her face. I tried calling her one more time, my anger building with each ring. This time, she picked up. "Emma, you're back!" Her voice was bright, fake, like nothing had happened. "Carmen, where's my furniture?" Silence. "Carmen? Look, I can explain everything. It's not as bad as it seems." Not as bad as it seems? I was sitting in an empty apartment that used to be my home, surrounded by nothing but dust outlines and broken trust. "I'll be right over," I said, my voice deadly calm. "Emma, wait. I think you should maybe sleep on this and we can talk tomorrow when you're less..." I hung up. As I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, one thought echoed in my mind. My own sister had betrayed me in the cruelest way possible. She'd taken my trust, my sanctuary, my carefully built life, and traded it all for her vanity. But she was about to learn that actions have consequences. And I was done being the understanding big sister who always forgave and forgot. I barely remembered the drive to Carmen's downtown condo. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly, my knuckles were white, my mind cycling between disbelief and rage. How could she do this? How could my own sister, the person I trusted most in the world, violate my home so completely? Carmen's building was everything mine wasn't. Sleek and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a doorman who nodded at me with recognition. I'd been here countless times, helping Carmen move in, bringing her dinner when she was stressed, celebrating her social media milestones. Now the familiar lobby felt foreign, tainted by betrayal. I bypassed the elevator and took the stairs, needing the physical exertion to channel my fury. By the time I reached her floor, my heart was pounding for more than just the climb. She opened the door before I could knock, and I immediately understood her reluctance to see me. Carmen's face was different. Subtly but unmistakably altered. Her lips were fuller, her cheekbones more pronounced, and there was something about her eyes that looked artificially enhanced. She'd had work done, expensive work, and I paid for it with my furniture. "Emma, you look great. The vacation really..." "Don't." My voice cut through her fake cheerfulness like a blade. "Just don't." She stepped back, her new features arranged in an expression of wounded innocence. "You're upset, I get it, but if you just let me explain..." "Explain what, exactly? Explain how you decided my furniture was yours to sell? Explain how you violated my trust and destroyed my home?" I pushed past her into the living room, noting how perfectly appointed it was, how every piece was exactly where it had always been. Nothing of hers was missing, only mine. Carmen closed the door and leaned against it, her hand unconsciously moving to her face. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. I was desperate, Emma. I had debts, and the surgery, I needed it for my career, for my mental health. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Pressure? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think I don't understand pressure? I work 60-hour weeks. I've been rebuilding my entire life after Ryan destroyed my confidence. And somehow I managed to do it without stealing from family. I didn't steal. I borrowed. I was going to pay you back, I swear. The furniture was just sitting there and you never even had people over anymore since the breakup. You thought that because I'm not throwing dinner parties anymore, my belongings are up for grabs? My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. Those pieces weren't just furniture, Carmen. They were my history, my identity, my proof that I could build something beautiful. Carmen's face crumpled, but I could see the calculation behind her tears. I know, and I'm sorry. But Emma, you have to understand. I'm drowning in debt. $15,000. The brands expect me to look a certain way. My followers judge every photo, every video. I needed the procedures to stay competitive. How much did you get for my things? She looked away. It doesn't matter. How much, Carmen? 8,000. The words were barely a whisper. $8,000. I felt the number hit me like a physical blow. Do you have any idea what those pieces were actually worth? The credenza alone was worth $5,000. The dining set was worth $6,000. You sold $20,000 worth of furniture for $8,000 because you were too desperate to do your research?
Carmen's mask slipped entirely. I didn't have time. The surgeon needed a deposit, and I was about to lose my apartment, and my credit cards were maxed out. I went to the first dealer I could find. I didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't care. You saw dollar signs and took them, regardless of what they meant to me. I walked to her windows, looking out at the Portland skyline, trying to process the full magnitude of her betrayal. How long have you been planning this? The whole time I was gone? Or before? I wasn't planning anything, it just happened. The surgeon's office called about the deposit and I panicked. I thought about asking you for money, but you've been so weird about spending since the divorce, so careful with everything. I didn't think you'd understand. So instead of asking your sister for help, you just took what you wanted? I was going to tell you. I was going to explain everything and pay you back. My next brand partnership is worth $12,000, and I have 3 more lined up. I could have replaced everything by Christmas. The casual way she said it, like my carefully curated vintage collection could just be replaced with whatever caught her eye online, made my stomach turn. You can't replace a 1940s Danish teak dining set, Carmen. You can't just order another antique Persian rug from Amazon. Those pieces took me years to find, years to afford. They weren't just furniture. They were just things, Carmen snapped, her facade finally cracking completely. They were old, used things that you obsess over because you're afraid to actually live your life. At least I'm doing something with mine, building something, creating content that inspires people. Your furniture was just sitting there, gathering dust while you hide from the world. The words hit me like a slap. Building something? You're building a lie, Carmen. A fake life funded by debt and maintained by surgery. And when that wasn't enough, you stole from me to keep the illusion going. I didn't steal. Family is supposed to help each other. Family is supposed to support each other's dreams. Family is also supposed to respect each other's boundaries and belongings. Family doesn't rob each other blind and then justify it with fake emergencies and Instagram posts. Carmen's face hardened. You know what your problem is, Emma? You're jealous. You're jealous that I took control of my life after your boyfriend left you. You're jealous that I have followers, that people care what I do, that I'm not just hiding in an apartment full of dead people's furniture, feeling sorry for myself. Preparing and narrating the story took us a lot of time, so if you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us.
Now, back to the story. The cruelty of it took my breath away. This wasn't my sister speaking. This was someone I didn't recognize, someone who could weaponize my deepest insecurities without hesitation. Get out, Carmen continued. Get out of my place. I don't need this guilt trip from someone who's too afraid to even try dating again. At least I'm living. I stared at her, this stranger wearing my sister's face, enhanced and altered and cold. I know what your problem is, Emma. You're right about one thing. I have been afraid. Afraid to trust, afraid to take risks, afraid to believe that people won't hurt me. But you know what? You just proved that my fear was justified. I walked toward her door, then turned back. I want you to know that you didn't just steal my furniture, Carmen. You stole my ability to trust you, to see you as the sister I thought you were. Congratulations on your new face. I hope it was worth it. I left her standing there, tears running down her surgically enhanced cheeks, and walked out of her building into the Portland night. But as I drove home to my empty apartment, I realized something had shifted inside me. The hurt was still there, sharp and overwhelming. But underneath it was something else, something harder and more determined. Carmen had taken something precious from me without permission or remorse. She'd violated my sanctuary and dismissed my feelings as unimportant. She'd made her choice. Now it was time for me to make mine. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Carmen's altered face, heard her dismissive words about my dead people's furniture. By dawn, I was sitting on my bare living room floor with my laptop, making lists of everything that was missing and trying to calculate my losses. Jake's knock on my door at 7 a.m. didn't surprise me. He had a key to the building and knew my habits well enough to know I'd be awake then. What did surprise me was how relieved I felt to see his familiar face. Jesus, Emma, what happened here? He stood in my doorway taking in the devastation with the eye of someone who understood the value of what was gone. Jake wasn't just my neighbor and friend. He was an antique dealer who'd helped me find and authenticate half my collection. He knew what each piece meant, both financially and emotionally. Carmen, I said simply. His face darkened. Carmen did this? She sold your things?
I nodded, not trusting my voice. Jake stepped inside and closed the door behind him, then did something that broke down what little composure I had left. He wrapped me in a hug that smelled like old wood and honest work, and let me cry against his flannel shirt until I had no tears left. "Tell me everything," he said when I finally pulled away. So I did. I told him about Cape Cod, about coming home to emptiness, about Carmen's face and her justifications and her cruelty. Jake listened without interruption, his jaw tightening with each detail. $20,000 worth of furniture for $8,000? He said when I finished. Emma, some of those pieces were worth even more than you knew. That credenza, it wasn't just mid-century modern, it was a genuine George Nelson design. I should have mentioned it before, but I didn't want you to feel pressured about insurance. That piece alone was worth $5,000, maybe $6,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. So she basically stole $30,000 worth of furniture and sold it for $8,000? At minimum. Jake ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I'd seen him make countless times when he was processing something difficult. Emma, I need to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Do you want to try to get your pieces back, or do you want justice? What's the difference? The difference is that getting them back means negotiating with dealers, maybe paying premiums to buy back your own belongings. Justice means making sure Carmen understands the full weight of what she did. I looked around my empty apartment, thinking about the years I'd spent carefully curating each piece, the joy I'd felt finding them, the sanctuary I'd built. I want to understand where everything went first. I need to know the full scope of what she destroyed. Jake nodded. Then let's go find out. The first dealer we visited was a mid-century modern specialist in southeast Portland. The owner, a weathered man named Dennis, recognized my description immediately. Yeah, young woman came in last week with some beautiful pieces, sold them all in one lot, cash only. Seemed in a hurry. He showed us photos on his phone. Already moved most of them.
That dining set went to a collector in Seattle, paid retail for it. $10,000. $10,000. Carmen had sold it for maybe $1,000. The second shop specialized in textiles. My Persian rug was already gone, sold to an interior designer for $4,000. Carmen had probably gotten $300 for it. By the fourth shop, Jake had to take my keys because my hands were shaking too badly to drive. The full picture was devastating. Carmen hadn't just stolen from me, she'd destroyed a collection that had taken me years to build and was worth more than my car. "There's something else," Jake said, as we sat in his truck outside the last dealer. "Something I need to tell you, and I'm not sure this is the right time, but after today, keeping it to myself feels dishonest." I looked at him, this man who'd spent his Saturday helping me document my losses, who'd held me while I cried, who knew the value of beautiful things and understood why their destruction mattered. "Emma, I'm in love with you. I have been for 2 years, since the week you moved in and asked me to help you arrange your furniture. I never said anything because you were with Ryan, and then after the breakup, you needed a friend, not another complication. But after today, after seeing how Carmen dismissed something you loved as just things, I can't keep pretending that what I feel is just friendship." The confession hung between us in the quiet truck. Under normal circumstances, it would have been overwhelming, life-changing. Today, it felt like the only honest thing anyone had said to me. "Jake, I don't have to say anything. You don't have to feel anything. I just needed you to know that someone sees the value in what you create, in who you are. Carmen was wrong about everything she said last night. You're not hiding from life, you're building something beautiful, and it matters." I reached for his hand, rough and warm from years of working with wood and metal. "Thank you, for today, for this, for seeing me when I couldn't see myself." He squeezed my hand. "What do you want to do now?" I looked out at the Portland skyline, thinking about Carmen's smug face, her casual dismissal of my feelings, her complete lack of remorse. She'd taken something precious from me and felt justified in doing it. She'd violated my trust and my home, then made me feel like the villain for being upset about it. "I want her to understand what she did," I said slowly. "I want her to feel what I felt when I walked into my empty apartment. I want her to know what it's like to have something precious stolen by someone who should protect it." Jake was quiet for a long moment. "Emma, that's a dangerous road to go down." "Maybe, but she stole from me without hesitation or remorse. She destroyed something I loved and dismissed my feelings as unimportant. If I just accept this, what message does that send? That she can take whatever she wants from me because I'll always forgive her?" "What are you thinking?"
I was thinking about Carmen's most prized possession, the one thing she valued above all her social media equipment and designer clothes. The art collection she'd inherited from our grandmother, Abuela Rosa. Carmen had mentioned it occasionally over the years, always in passing, always with the same dismissive attitude she'd shown toward my furniture. "I'm thinking that turnabout is fair play," I said, "and I'm thinking I know exactly how to make my point." Jake studied my face, and I could see him weighing his response. Finally, he nodded. "If you're serious about this, you'll need help, and you'll need to be smart about it." "Are you offering to help me?" "Emma, after what she did to you today, after the way she spoke to you?" "Yes, I'm offering to help you." As we drove back toward my empty apartment, I felt something I hadn't experienced since my breakup. A sense of purpose, of agency, of being in control of my own story. Carmen had made her choice when she violated my trust and stole my sanctuary. Now it was time for her to face the consequences. 3 sleepless nights passed in my hollow apartment. I'd taken sick days from work, unable to concentrate on design projects when my own carefully designed life lay in ruins around me. I spent those days sitting on my remaining IKEA couch, staring at the dust outlines where my furniture had been, feeling the weight of violation pressing down on me like a physical thing. But in those quiet hours, a memory surfaced, sharp and clear as broken glass. Abuela Rosa's art collection. I remembered the day Carmen inherited it, 2 years ago when our grandmother passed. We'd stood in Abuela's tiny apartment,
surrounded by dozens of paintings and sketches that told the story of her life in America. Carmen had seemed almost annoyed by the bequest, muttering about storage space and wondering aloud why Abuela hadn't left her something actually valuable, like jewelry or cash. She painted these because she loved us, I'd told Carmen that day, running my fingers over a watercolor portrait of our mother as a child. She wanted you to have them because she saw the artist in you. Carmen had rolled her eyes. I'm a content creator, not a painter. I don't even know where I'll put all this stuff. Now, sitting in my gutted apartment, I remembered exactly where Carmen had put all this stuff. In her spare bedroom, stacked against the walls like expensive wallpaper, collecting dust while she focused on her Instagram aesthetic and surgical enhancements. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Marcus Chen's number. Marcus owned a small but respected gallery in the Pearl District, and he'd known Abuela Rosa personally. I remembered him at her funeral, telling stories about her talent and lamenting that her work had never been properly displayed. "Emma," Marcus's voice was warm with surprise when he answered. "How are you, dear? It's been too long since you visited the gallery." I've been better," I said, choosing my words carefully. "Marcus, I need to ask you about something sensitive. Carmen's art collection, the paintings she inherited from Abuela Rosa, have you ever appraised them?" A pause. "Why do you ask?" "I need to know their value, their real value." "Emma, I've been trying to get Carmen to let me properly display that collection for 2 years. Your grandmother's work deserves to be seen, not hidden away. As for value, conservatively, $25,000, realistically, closer to $30,000. There are 3 pieces in particular that are exceptional, real museum quality." The numbers hit me like electricity. $30,000 worth of art gathering dust while Carmen obsessed over her appearance and racked up debt for procedures? Meanwhile, she'd stolen $20,000 worth of my furniture and sold it for $8,000 to fund her vanity. "Marcus," I said slowly, "hypothetically, if someone wanted to sell that collection quickly, discreetly, could it be done?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Emma, what's going on? You sound different." I told him everything. The stolen furniture, Carmen's surgery, her complete lack of remorse, the way she dismissed my feelings and violated my trust. Marcus listened without interruption, his breathing growing heavier with each detail. "My God," he said when I finished. "Emma, I'm so sorry. I had no idea Carmen was capable of something like that." "So, you'll help me?" "Help you what? Exactly." "Help me give Carmen a taste of her own medicine. Help me make her understand what it feels like to have something precious stolen by someone who should protect it." The line went quiet for a long moment. I could almost hear Marcus wrestling with the ethics of what I was asking. "Those paintings belong to Carmen legally. What you're suggesting is theft." "What Carmen did to me was theft too. The only difference is she had a key." "Two wrongs don't make a right, Emma." "Maybe not. But one right doesn't balance out a massive wrong either. She stole from me, dismissed my feelings, and showed zero remorse. If I just accept this, what message does that send? That family can treat me however they want because I'll always forgive and forget?" Marcus sighed again. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Carmen has a surgery follow-up appointment next Tuesday at 2 p.m. She posted about it on Instagram, bragging about her self-care journey. She'll be gone for hours. I still have her spare key from when she had pneumonia last winter, and I took care of her cat." "Emma." "I'm not asking you to break in with me. I'm asking you to authenticate the collection and arrange a buyer. Someone discreet who appreciates art and won't ask too many questions about provenance." "And then what? Carmen discovers her inheritance is gone and calls the police?"
Then I explained that I was simply recovering my losses from a family member who stole from me first. Carmen won't call the police because she knows what she did was wrong, and she knows I have proof of every missing piece of furniture. I could hear Marcus thinking, could almost see him pacing his gallery office the way he did when he was processing a difficult decision. Those paintings deserve better than to be hidden in Carmen's spare room. Abuela Rosa painted them with love, hoping they'd inspire her granddaughter. Instead, Carmen's ignored them for 2 years while she focused on altering the face that appears in several of those family portraits. If anything, I'd be honoring Abuela's memory by making sure her art is properly appreciated. And you think this will teach Carmen a lesson? I think Carmen needs to understand that actions have consequences. She needs to feel the violation I felt when I walked into my empty apartment. She needs to know what it's like to have something precious taken by someone who should love and protect her. Another long silence. Then Marcus spoke, his voice quiet but resolute. There's a private collector I know, recently retired tech executive who specializes in immigrant art. He's been looking for pieces exactly like your grandmother's, work that documents the Mexican-American experience. He pays fair prices and asks minimal questions. My heart raced. How quickly could you arrange a sale? If the art is as beautiful as I remember, probably within hours of authentication. This collector pays cash for pieces he wants. I felt a surge of anticipation mixed with guilt. What I was planning was morally ambiguous at best, outright wrong at worst. But Carmen had crossed a line when she violated my trust and stole my sanctuary. She showed no remorse, no understanding of how deeply she had hurt me. Maybe it was time for her to learn what loss felt like. Marcus, I said, my voice steady despite the magnitude of what I was asking. Will you help me? A final pause. Then, Tuesday at 3 p.m. I'll meet you at Carmen's building with authentication equipment and transportation. But Emma, are you absolutely sure about this? Once we do this, there's no going back. I looked around my empty apartment, at the spaces where my beloved furniture had been, at the dust outlines that marked the destruction of my sanctuary. I thought about Carmen's surgically altered face, her dismissive words, her complete lack of understanding about what she had destroyed. I'm sure, I said. Carmen made her choice when she stole from me. Now it's time for me to make mine. After I hung up, I sat in the growing darkness of my apartment, feeling something I hadn't experienced in days. Control. For the first time since walking into my gutted home, I was taking action instead of just suffering the consequences of Carmen's betrayal. Tuesday couldn't come soon enough. Tuesday morning arrived gray and drizzling, typical Portland weather that matched my conflicted mood. I had barely slept, alternating between determination and doubt throughout the night. What I was planning felt both absolutely necessary and completely wrong, like standing at the edge of a moral cliff with no choice but to jump. I called in sick to work again, claiming a family emergency. It wasn't entirely a lie. Jake met me at a coffee shop near Carmen's building at noon, his expression serious as he studied my face across the small table. "You look like hell," he said without preamble. "Thanks for the honesty. Emma, I need to ask you one more time. Are you absolutely sure about this? Once we do this thing, there's no taking it back." I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup, seeking warmth in the ceramic. She stole $20,000 worth of furniture from me, Jake. She sold irreplaceable pieces that took me years to find for $8,000 to pay for cosmetic surgery. She showed zero remorse and made me feel like I was crazy for being upset about it. I know, I was there. But this, he gestured vaguely, encompassing the plan we'd discussed. This feels different. Your furniture was legally yours. What we are about to do is give Carmen exactly what she gave me. A violation of trust by someone who should protect her. The experience of losing something precious to someone else's selfishness. Jake studied me for a long moment. You're not wrong to be angry. What Carmen did was inexcusable. I just want to make sure you can live with whatever comes next. I thought about that. Really considered it. Could I live with crossing this line? Could I live with the guilt of taking Carmen's inheritance, even temporarily, even in service of justice? More importantly, could I live with letting Carmen's betrayal go unanswered?
I can live with it, I said finally. What I can't live with is being Carmen's eternal victim, the sister who always forgives and forgets no matter how badly she treats me. Jake nodded slowly. Then let's go get your grandmother's paintings. Carmen's building was quiet at 2:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'd confirmed her surgery appointment through her Instagram story, a selfie from the medical office with the caption, "Touch Up Tuesday, looking fresher already. #self-care, #new me." The casual way she documented her procedures, funded by my stolen furniture, made my stomach turn. I used my key to enter her building, my hands surprisingly steady despite the magnitude of what I was about to do. Jake followed silently, carrying the soft moving blankets we'd brought to protect the artwork during transport. Carmen's apartment was exactly as I remembered it. Pristine, modern, expensive. Everything in its perfect place, carefully arranged for maximum Instagram impact. The contrast with my gutted apartment couldn't have been starker. "The spare bedroom is this way," I whispered, though there was no one around to hear us. The door opened to reveal exactly what I had expected. Abuela Rosa's art collection stacked carelessly against the walls like expensive storage. Paintings leaned 3 deep in some places, their frames touching, some pieces showing slight damage from poor handling and storage. It broke my heart to see our grandmother's life work treated with such casual disregard. "Jesus," Jake breathed, kneeling beside a watercolor portrait of our mother as a child. "Emma, these are incredible. Look at the detail, the emotion in this brushwork. Your grandmother was really talented." I picked up a small oil painting of our family gathered around a kitchen table, probably painted from memory after one of our holiday dinners. Carmen and I were maybe 8 and 5, captured in oils with such love and precision that I could almost smell Abuela's tamales cooking in the background. She painted this the Christmas after her stroke. She couldn't use her right hand anymore, so she taught herself to paint left-handed. Look how she captured Carmen's laugh. In the painting, 5-year-old Carmen was mid-giggle, her face bright with joy and mischief. The contrast with the woman who'd coldly dismissed my feelings 3 days ago was heartbreaking. "Emma," Gake's voice was soft but urgent, "we need to move quickly. Marcus said he'd be here at 3. I nodded, pushing aside the guilt and sentimentality. Carmen had made her choice when she stole from me. Now I was making mine. We worked systematically, wrapping each piece in soft blankets and creating an inventory as we went. 23 paintings total, ranging from small sketches to large family portraits. The 3 pieces Marcus had mentioned as museum quality were immediately recognizable. A stunning landscape of the Mexican countryside, a self-portrait of Abuela Rosa as a young woman, and a large family gathering that must have taken months to complete. As we worked, I found myself cataloging not just the artwork, but the evidence of Carmen's neglect. Water damage on 2 pieces from a leak she'd never mentioned, frame damage from careless stacking, dust thick enough to write on, coating several paintings. Your grandmother would be heartbroken to see how these have been treated, Jake echoed my thoughts as he carefully wrapped the damaged landscape. She left these to Carmen, hoping they'd inspire her to value art over appearance. Instead, Carmen shoved them in here and forgot about them while she spent thousands altering the face that appears in half these portraits. Marcus arrived precisely at 3, professional and efficient despite the moral ambiguity of our situation. He moved through the collection with reverent hands, examining brush strokes and signatures with the eye of someone who understood both artistic and monetary value. "Remarkable," he murmured over the self-portrait. "The technique here is sophisticated, professional level. And this family gathering?" He studied the large canvas that dominated one wall.
This is the kind of piece that belongs in a museum, documenting immigrant experience through family narrative. What's the total value? I asked. Conservatively, $28,000 for the collection. These 3 masterpieces alone are worth $15,000. Marcus looked up at me, his expression serious. Emma, are you absolutely certain about this? Once I make the call to my collector, this becomes real. There's no going back. I looked around the spare bedroom at the casual way priceless art had been treated like inconvenient storage, then thought about my empty apartment and Carmen's complete lack of remorse. Make the call, I said. Marcus nodded and stepped into the hallway to use his phone. I could hear him speaking in low, professional tones, describing the collection to his collector contact. He'll take the entire collection. Cash transaction, his warehouse space for authentication and transport. We can have this done within the hour. We exchanged a look. This was it, the point of no return. Let's finish this, I said. We loaded the wrapped paintings into Marcus's van with the careful attention of museum professionals. Each piece was secured, protected, treated with the respect Carmen had never shown them. As we drove towards the collector's warehouse, I felt an unexpected mix of emotions. Guilt, yes, but also a strange sense of rightness. These paintings were going to someone who would appreciate them, value them, possibly display them publicly as Abuela Rosa had always hoped.
Carmen had inherited a treasure and treated it like junk. Now it would go to someone who understood its worth. At the warehouse, the collector, a soft-spoken man named David Kim, examined each piece with genuine appreciation. His questions about Abuela Rosa's technique and inspiration showed a deep respect for both the art and the artist. This work deserves to be seen, he said, carefully studying the family gathering painting. Your grandmother had real talent, sophisticated understanding of light and composition. I'd like to include several pieces in a show I'm curating about immigrant artists next year. The irony wasn't lost on me. Carmen had hidden these paintings in a spare room, while I'd unknowingly found them a path to the public appreciation Abuela Rosa had always deserved. When David handed me the cashier's check for $28,000, I felt a complex surge of emotions. Justice, guilt, vindication, regret, all tangled together in my chest. What happens now? Jake asked as we drove back toward downtown. Now Carmen learns what it feels like to lose something precious to someone else's selfishness, I said, folding the check carefully into my wallet. But even as I said the words, I wondered if I was really seeking justice or just revenge, and whether, in the end, there was really any difference between the two. I didn't have to wait long for Carmen's reaction. My phone rang at 6:47 p.m. while I was sitting in my empty apartment, staring at the cashier's check and wrestling with the complexity of what I'd done. Carmen's name on the caller ID sent a jolt of adrenaline for me. Emma! Her voice was hysterical, bordering on panic. Someone broke into my apartment. They took Abuela's paintings, all of them. I came home and the spare room was ransacked and everything's gone. I let the silence stretch for a moment, savoring the panic in her voice. That's terrible, Carmen. Did you call the police? Yes, they're here now, but they think it was probably someone I knew because there's no sign of forced entry. Emma, what am I going to do? Those paintings were worth... I don't even know how much they were worth. $28,000, I said calmly. The line went dead quiet except for the sound of Carmen's breathing. What did you say? I said they were worth $28,000, which is approximately $20,000 more than the $8,000 you got for my furniture collection. I could hear Carmen's intake of breath, the moment when understanding hit her like a physical blow. Emma, you didn't. I did exactly what you did to me, Carmen. I took something that wasn't legally mine because I felt justified in doing so. The only difference is that I got fair market value for what I sold. You stole from me.
The hysteria in her voice had transformed into rage. "You broke into my apartment and stole my inheritance. I recovered my losses from a family member who showed no remorse for stealing from me first, just like you recovered money for your surgery from my furniture collection."
That was different. I was desperate. I had debts. And I was desperate to feel like my violation mattered to someone, like my feelings had value. Turns out the only way to get your attention was to speak your language. Carmen was crying now, harsh sobs that might have moved me a week ago, before she betrayed my trust and dismissed my pain as unimportant. "Those paintings were all I had left of Abuela Rosa," she choked out. "They were the only thing that connected me to her." Funny, because for the past 2 years, you've kept them stacked in your spare room like expensive wallpaper. You never displayed them, never appreciated them, never honored the woman who painted them with love. You treated Abuela's life work exactly the way you treated my furniture, like objects that only mattered for their cash value. "That's not true. I loved those paintings." "You loved the idea of having valuable art, Carmen. You loved being able to mention your collection casually in conversations. But you never loved the paintings themselves. If you had, you would have taken better care of them. Half of them had water damage from that leak you never fixed properly." "I'm calling the police," Carmen said, her voice hardening. "I'm reporting you for theft." "Go ahead. I'll explain to them how my sister stole $20,000 worth of furniture from my apartment while I was on vacation, sold it for $8,000 to pay for cosmetic surgery, then showed zero remorse when confronted about it. I still have photos of every missing piece, receipts for what I paid, and documentation of their actual value." Another silence. Carmen was many things, but she wasn't stupid. She knew that involving the police would mean exposing her own actions to scrutiny. "This isn't over," she said finally. "You're right. It's not. Because for the first time in our relationship, I'm not just rolling over and accepting your selfish behavior. I'm not the understanding big sister who always forgives and forgets anymore, Carmen. You taught me that family members can be cruel to each other without consequence. Well, now you get to learn what consequences feel like." I hung up before she could respond, my hands shaking with adrenaline and something that might have been satisfaction. Within minutes, my phone was buzzing with texts from Carmen. "You're a thief. I can't believe you would do this to family. Abuela would be ashamed of you. Those paintings meant everything to me. I'm going to make you pay for this."
"I've been struggling too," Mom said quietly. "Lost my job last month. Haven't told you because I didn't want to be a burden. But watching you two destroy each other over possessions while I'm trying to figure out how to pay rent, it breaks my heart." The weight of her words settled over us. All our anger suddenly felt petty and cruel. I sat in my empty apartment, surrounded by the ghosts of my vintage treasures. 3 weeks had passed since dinner at Mom's, and the silence felt different now. Less angry, more hollow. My phone showed dozens of unread messages from Carmen, but I wasn't ready yet. The next morning, I found myself standing outside Marcus's gallery. Through the window, I could see Abuela Rosa's paintings displayed on pristine white walls, properly lit for the first time in years. I pushed through the door. "Emma!" Marcus looked up from his desk. "I was hoping you'd come." The artwork was breathtaking. I'd forgotten how talented Abuela Rosa was, how her brushstrokes captured not just images, but emotions. There was a portrait of my mother as a child, eyes bright with dreams. Another of Carmen and me at 7 and 4, holding hands in Sunday dresses. "She painted this series called Family Bonds," Marcus said, joining me. "See how the colors connect each painting? She said family was like that. Separate pieces that only made sense together." My chest tightened. I've messed everything up. "Your grandmother faced worse. Lost her husband young, raised 4 children alone, watched 2 sons go to war. But she never lost faith in family." He gestured to a painting of weathered hands holding a child's fingers.
She told me once that possessions come and go, but the people who love you unconditionally, that's the only treasure that matters. Meanwhile, across town, Carmen was having her own reckoning. She sat in her empty condo, boxes of expensive skincare products and designer clothes surrounding her like monuments to her mistakes. Her phone showed her Instagram analytics, followers dropping daily as she'd stopped posting since the surgery. She pulled out an old photo album, something she hadn't touched in years. There was Abuela Rosa teaching her to paint when she was 8, both of them covered in watercolors. She remembered the lesson, Mija, true beauty comes from creating something with love, not from buying something to impress others. She'd traded that wisdom for likes and validation from strangers. She picked up her phone, fingers trembling, and typed a text to Emma. I'm sorry, I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know. Marcus called us both to the gallery the next week. He said, there's something you both need to see. I arrived first, nervous and unsure. Carmen walked in 5 minutes later, looking as uncomfortable as I felt. Ladies, Marcus said, I've had several collectors inquire about purchasing your grandmother's work. The collection could sell for $40,000. Carmen gasped. I felt sick. But, Marcus continued, I want you to see what she really created here. He led us through the gallery, explaining each piece. The family portraits weren't just paintings, they were love letters. The landscapes weren't just pretty pictures, they were memories of a homeland Abuela Rosa carried in her heart. She didn't paint to get rich, she painted to preserve what mattered. Family, memory, love. Carmen broke first. I'm so sorry, Emma. I was drowning in debt and scared, and I made the worst possible choice. Your furniture, your trust, everything I destroyed. She was sobbing now. I've become everything Abuela Rosa would have hated. Something cracked open in my chest. Carmen, I sold our grandmother's paintings for revenge. I'm the one who should be sorry. You were protecting yourself from someone who hurt you. I understand that now. We stood there crying in front of Abuela Rosa's family portrait. 2 grown women, finally seeing clearly. I want to give you the money back, I said. All of it. No. Carmen wiped her eyes. Use it to replace what I stole. But Emma, I want to earn your trust back properly. I got a job here, at the gallery. Part-time, but it's a start. Marcus smiled. Actually, I have a proposal. What if we donate the collection to the community center in your grandmother's name? Create a scholarship for young artists? Carmen and I looked at each other, really looked at each other, for the first time in months. She'd love that, Carmen whispered. Yeah, I agreed. She really would. We weren't fixed, not yet. But standing there surrounded by our grandmother's vision of family, we were finally ready to start healing. 6 months later, I stood in my apartment, running my fingers across the smooth surface of my new dining table. It wasn't the Danish teat Carmen had sold. This was a 1950s walnut piece Jake had found at an estate sale. Different, but somehow better. I'd learned to let go of the fantasy that things could be perfectly replaced. You ready? Jake asked, adjusting his tie in my hallway mirror. Tonight was the opening of the Rosa Martinez Memorial Art Space at the community center. Both our families would be there. Carmen had been working at Marcus's gallery for 4 months now. Her Instagram transformation still amazed me. Gone were the filtered selfies and sponsored posts about weight loss teas. Instead, she shared behind-the-scenes videos of local artists, honest posts about her recovery from surgery addiction, and photos of paintings that moved her. Her follower count had dropped from 50K to 15K, but the comments were real now. People sharing their own struggles, asking about the artists she featured, actually engaging with her content instead of just liking and scrolling.
At the community center, I watched Carmen guide a group of teenagers through Abuela Rosa's paintings. She'd kept her favorite piece,
a painting of hands kneading bread, representing how love is created through daily acts of care. "Your grandmother painted this when she was homesick," Carmen explained to the kids. "She said bread was the same in every country: flour, water, patience, and love." One girl raised her hand. "Did she make money from her art?" Carmen smiled. "Not really. But she always said the richest people were those who created beauty in the world, not those who just collected it." I felt Jake's hand slip into mine. We'd been taking things slow, but last week he'd left a coffee mug at my place. Small steps toward something real. Mom approached us, looking healthier than she had in months. Her new job at the library suited her. She was organizing reading programs for kids, using the same nurturing energy she'd poured into raising us. "I'm proud of you both," she said, hugging Carmen and me together. "Abuela Rosa is too." "I hope so," Carmen said softly. "I wasted so much time trying to be someone else." "Time's never wasted if you learn from it," Mom replied. Later, driving home, I thought about the year that had passed. I'd lost furniture worth thousands, but gained something invaluable: the knowledge that I could survive betrayal and choose forgiveness. Carmen had lost followers and her fantasy of purchased perfection, but found purpose and authentic relationships. My apartment felt different now. Still beautiful, still filled with carefully chosen vintage pieces, but no longer a shrine to my own taste. Jake's books were scattered on my coffee table. Carmen's first new painting hung in my kitchen, a watercolor of 2 coffee cups, titled Sisters. Some treasures couldn't be stolen or sold. They could only be built, day by day, choice by choice, through the messy, imperfect work of loving people who disappointed you and forgiving them anyway.
Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.